So this all falls within the regular scope of capitalism. There's nothing special about it. It's just production. But imperialism and monopolies also add two other forms. And this is the most important form of monopoly under imperialism, which should ring very true to us today. And that is banking monopolies. Banking monopolies, whereas previously, I'll just quote Lenin here, but just briefly, banks gain profit through the financial industry, but moreover, the loans they issue serve to consolidate their hold over industry. And this is if you think about what capitalism purports to be, right? Industrialist people working to make new products to serve goals, right? Banks should serve only a minor function. And yet today, it is the banking industry, right, that gets a complete, pretty much, now they're adding some because people were angry, but basically, initially, the banks got a no strings attached, complete, universal bailout, whereas, and of course, right, again, banking, what do they do? What do they produce? Nothing, except capital. So not even a real industry, if we want to make that higher distinction between the real and the fake economy, they get no strings attached. But look at any of the automotive industries, right? The big three, right? Which just admits that it's a monopoly, a production monopoly. But under our current system of capitalism, people who make real products get massive amounts of restrictions. They get cut down. They don't get the blank check, if you'll pardon the term, that banks get. So Lenin, nearly 100 years ago, points out the absurdity of this and its effects. Banks hold disproportionate sway over other investors because they control a strong interest in child companies all the way down. The principal and primary function of banks is to serve as middlemen in making of payments. In so doing, they transform the inactive money of capital into active, that is, capital yielding a profit. They collect all kinds of money revenues and place them at the disposal of the capitalist class. As banking develops and becomes concentrated in a small number of establishments, the banks grow from modest middlemen to powerful monopolies that have their command over the whole of money capital of all the capitalists and the small businessmen, and also the larger part of the means of production and sources of raw materials in any one country and in a number of other countries. The transformation of the process from numerous modest middlemen into a handful of monopolists is one of the fundamental processes in the growth of capitalism into capitalist imperialism. For this reason, we must, first of all, examine the concentration of banking. So again, it's not the case that there's a real economy and a fake economy. The rise of banks as monopolistic controlling interests is the necessary function of capitalism moving to the next stage, which is to say, capitalist imperialism. And so, of course, right, again, they gain money through finance, through interest rates, through loans, etc., etc. But the interesting thing about the loans is the loans serve to consolidate industry under the bank. If you take a loan from a bank, you follow the bank's rules. And in fact, this was the core of our crisis. The banks no longer wanted to offer loans to other companies, right? It was a credit freeze, right? This is nothing more than, does nothing more than demonstrate that the entirety of our industry, of our economy, depends and is monopolized and is controlled both directly and indirectly by financial capital, by the banking class. And every time they issue a loan, it is very easy for a bank to use a little bit of that loan money to buy a chunk of the company. And then when that company makes a child company in order to fulfill some function, it's very easy for the bank then to by issuing a loan to that, use a little bit of the money to buy a little bit of that child company. And so what you have is you have large investment banks like Bear Stearns, like Merrill Lynch, investment companies or insurance companies that basically, again, they insure by offering loans and protections, like AIG, linked everywhere to every aspect of our economy, so that if something happens to them, right, the entire system goes down with them. And so again, it can't be overstated how much power the banks have. Now, this leads us to what most people think of as imperialism, which is an important part, but by no means the most important part, which is colonialism, right? Colonialism, at its root, is a colony. And basically, colonies can serve either to support production, they can support the raw materials, or what they can do is they can support the banking monopolies. And the basic way they do it is this. Actually, Iraq is a perfect example of all of these monopolies at play. First, we have a production monopoly. In Iraq, they do not have the sorts of standards and restrictions that we have. So it is very easy for refineries, for oil companies, right, to set up a refinery there that belches toxins into the air and poisons the water, and have a monopoly on this in order for the sake of production, right? So we have a productive monopoly. But then also, it is very easy for these corporations, which again received no bid contracts, to have, right, raw material. They are the ones that extract the oil from the very ground itself. So you have them extracting the raw materials, then you have them bringing it to a traditional, right, production facility in the form of refineries. And then you have the banking institutions, which out of the, and you can watch this, watch it happen in Haiti. It's going to happen in Haiti, it happens all over the world, but I'll use Iraq for the example. You have glorious humanitarian banking institutions offering loans to the poor, downtrodden Iraqis, soon to be Haitians, soon to be Colombians, soon to be take your pick, anywhere the WTO, the World Trade Organization, or the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, can get a foothold. They offer these loans at very reasonable rates. And by offering these loans, all that they require is that these countries, these people, completely alter their entire economic system so to only buy or make it incredibly easy to buy foreign capital. That is to say, it makes it easy for foreign investors to, right, invest, whereas it makes it very difficult for local investors. It makes it very easy, or sometimes there are even explicit restrictions. Some of you may remember, Iraq, in its reconstruction, cannot buy from Russians, from Germans, from French, because they were not part of the coalition of the willing, and they were not willing to invade. So instead of this free market laissez-faire utopia that the neocons said, I don't know that they really led us to believe that it would happen, but said would occur, right? What you actually have is you have banks that issue loans to Iraqis who can then only buy American or coalition goods. They can only buy coalition refinery machines. They can only buy American pipes. They can only buy American military equipment. And so the bank makes money twice, right? Once in issuing the loan, and then once again in collecting, well actually, I'm sorry, 3 times. Once in issuing the loan, once in collecting on the loan, and that's including interest, and then once by having a controlling interest in all the companies that then are buying the goods. All of this done, right, under the name of free trade.